Hi, and welcome to another episode of It's Good to Talk. We are your hosts. I am Marcia, inspirational speaker, author, mentor, and mother.
And my name is Kai, coach, speaker, and author.
Yeah, so I have literally just entered my 48th cycle around the sun,
Whoop,
and
whoop.
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. It has definitely been 47 was definitely a year of change, and I feel moving forward there's lots of exciting things happening, and I always see a new year of life as a new opportunity again to make a difference. And I personally in the last year have been feeling quite stuck in some aspects of my life, and I'm seeing
Okay.
this as a an opportunity to kind of reassess,
Mm-hmm.
recalibrate, and go again. So kind of in line with the rebirth that we talked about in our first episode. And so I don't know, do you feel like that when you approach a new year of your life?
Um, yes and no. It depends because sometimes I think, obviously, when you're younger, the novelty of having a birthday sometimes wears off because
Mhm.
you're older. Maybe you're not getting as many gifts or messages as you maybe used to.
Right.
Fortunately for me, I feel like I'm still blessed in other ways. So it's not about gifts, obviously. It's not about, having a trillion messages, but I think just kind of having that reset button to really look at what you've done in the previous year and just see how much you've grown. I think in my 30s, I felt just more maturing, more understanding, more self empathy. When I was like 18, I was like, yeah, by the time I'm 27, I'm going to do this. I'm going to going to be like, married with like two kids.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, as you get older, you kind of realize that, when you were 18, when you were 20, when you were 25, or whatever stage you were, you're still learning, you're still growing, and there's still so much more. So I kind of feel like that's how my last few birthdays have felt. Just really grateful and gratitude for where I am.
And that's literally where I am as well. I feel like, I even in my 40s, I always remember somebody saying to me, she's a few years older than me, and so she's in her 50s now. But I remember always saying to me that, when you get to your 40s, you start to really understand who you are. But when you get to your 50s, it doesn't matter anymore what other people think. And you actually
Mm.
step into who you are in the sense that you're doing that unapologetically. And I'm definitely seeing that transition in myself. You talk about going back to your teens, and I just the person I was and who I showed up as is just so different to the woman that I am today. And, of course, I'm grateful for all of the things that have happened along the way. I'm fully aware that all of those things were to bring me to this point. But yeah, I'm just feeling very grateful right now. I feel like I'm excited. But I think looking back at all the pressure I put on myself in my younger years,
Oh,
and I'm sure there's a
absolutely.
lots of listeners that will relate to that, kind of, as you mentioned, those stages that we thought we would have achieved that and accomplished that and done this by.
When I was 18, I thought I knew everything. Because that's the thing, you get to, these society ages because you do the big, 18, or there's a
I'm
sweet
an
16.
adult.
Yeah, then you do the 18. So it's like, well, I can drive now. I can, in the UK, maybe you can buy alcohol or whatever it may be. You don't need to be checked in a certain standpoint. And if people are asking you, for ID, you kind of feel like, ID, do you know who I am? Like, I'm 19.
I'm
Hello.
19.
I am over
Yes.
the age. And then you get to 21 and it's like, big celebration again. And then you get to 25. Not that there's big society, celebrations, but I think you get to 30 and it's like 30, you have made it. Like 30 is the be all and end all. I've even heard some girls that on most fronts we're, doing everything the same maturity, etc., etc. But then they get to this point where I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to turn 30. My God, my 20s are over. Like, what am I going to do? And I'm like, guys, you do know this is the best part actually. Like when you get into your 30s,
Yeah,
you
of
leave
course, it's
all
your
the
prime.
insecurities. And I feel like exactly what you said about the 40 to 50 stage. Obviously, I've not reached there yet, but I literally feel like when you get to 30, for me anyway, there was this whole point of what was I worrying about like in my 20s? Like this is the new, as they say, flirty 30 or dirty 30. And you just I don't know, you own more of
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and I
yeah,
think a
yeah.
lot more people have said that when they've
Hmm.
reached
You own
flirty
more of
30.
yourself. But I will like to point out at this stage, as a mother of, you know, adults, basically, I do still feel like, even though they are younger than me, I do feel that I learn a lot from them. So we're not
Mm,
in any shape or form saying that because you're in your teens or because you're in your early 20s that you know nothing, because I think, you definitely know a lot. But I think
mhm.
what you're saying and what I'm definitely trying to say here is that you learn more of yourself, and you're more comfortable with yourself as time goes on. Well, that's definitely my experience anyway.
Mm. I just think I thought, and many people feel that they were supposed to have it all figured out.
Yeah.
Going to university, knowing what you want to do with your life, because you get asked those questions a lot, don't you? At
Hmm.
certain stages, like what's next?
Hmm.
And if you don't know, then I certainly felt lost because I'm like, well, I don't know what's next. Like I don't know the things I wanted to do or I felt I was good at. I wasn't sure if they were careers that I could earn money in or would make me, have that big break. So you get asked a lot of those questions. Okay, so what's next? What's the job? What's the career? What's the answer? And I honestly didn't know for I think even majority of my 20s. It was like a big question mark,
Well, the thing is, do you even know now? Like, I mean, I'm telling you, I'm 48. I have a better understanding, but I'm not like, I've got it all figured out. No. And
No.
so I know we have that conversation because, of course, you'll say, well, Marcy, at least you've had kids. At least you've had, yeah, you're right. I've had all those things, but I still don't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
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 There are things I didn't do because I had my children young.
Yes.
There are things that I'm discovering about myself now that I never knew before.
Yeah.
So it's an ongoing, evolving journey. And I think when we start to look at life like that, as opposed to it being a destination that we have to arrive at by a specific time, because this is a lot of pressure that we're actually putting on ourselves.
It's a lot of pressure and it's also that's not how it works. And I
No.
think even us having this conversation now and not to compare each other or anything, but when we realize, oh, you're still at the point where you're figuring things out and this person and that person and that's
Right.
why I love listening to autobiographies actually,
Mhm.
because sometimes in society we can idolize
Yeah.
certain
Of
people in
course,
our
yeah.
family, of course celebrities, etc., politicians. And when you actually listen to people's life stories and memoirs, you're like, wow, and that never changes. I think I recently read Will Smith's autobiography and I loved it. I listened to his audiobook and it's just eye-opening because you do get to know certain people through the films, through the TV, through the things they've done work-wise, but how much do we really know about someone behind closed
Them.
doors?
Right.
So I love the vulnerability that people put into their biographies, and you get to be so much more self-accepting because you're like, okay, it's not about getting to 30 or getting to university and then graduating and then
Right.
feeling like there's going to be this big magic wand at the end just like
Everything's gonna be just
here's all the
fine.
answers now that you've graduated. It's like, oh wait,
In fact,
I
correct me
still
if I'm
need
wrong, but
answers.
it can be more confusing because now you've done this degree, and
Listen,
because all of that hasn't happened, it's like, well, why'd I
now
bother?
what? Like, what was the point? Yeah, because you're thinking, well,
Mm,
where's all these job offers and where's all the answers that's going to fall into my lap?
no.
And it doesn't. I mean, of course I can laugh about it now, but it was a very daunting time when I was younger because, as you said, you get to these points and you think, well, I've spent all this money, spent all this time, I studied, I did everything that everyone said I was supposed to do, and I feel the same and I'm in the same position, so
Right.
now what? you know um
I mean,
and
go ahead, sorry.
no, I was going to say it's beautiful now because obviously we can have conversations like this, we can be vulnerable, obviously we can lean on each other, and starting the podcast, for example, is a place to talk about these kind of things, because I know for a fact that there has been times where you just feel very alone, like you're the only person going through it and everyone else already has it figured out, in their lives, whatever that is, in their career or personal aspects. So
yeah, I definitely feel that with a lot of my clients. They will often express that they feel very alone. And I think that is partly because comparison is a thief of joy. And so when we look at other people, we do, as you say, idolize them and think, well, I just want that. But then when you actually speak to them on a personal level, there's lots of cracks. There's lots of things going on in real life. That's one aspect. And as we know social media is, God, it's a blessing and a curse, right? Because people show their
I
best
don't think
selves.
it's only social media though, because I think it's definitely heightened it. Absolutely. There's no question about that. And I think we have to be very careful about how we use it. And own that part. But I think it goes right back to limiting beliefs, and of course the things that you are already telling yourself, which is then amplified by social
Right.
media or amplified by your friendship circles. Because
Right.
if you're not around people who are going to kind of pick you up when you're down, or when you say negative things about yourself or whatever. I mean, I've got friends that were amazing growing up, that, if I was scared to do something or whatever, they'd encourage me, or they'd kind of push me and be like, go on, you can do this. When I didn't believe I could, but that wasn't anything to do with social media back then. It was more
No.
so because I didn't have the self-esteem, and I did look outside myself. I felt like if other people weren't saying that this is good, then maybe it probably isn't. And I would then be so shy to the point of doing nothing to actually express myself. And I think now social media has pretty much just magnified a lot of those insecurities in people, because now you're not comparing your friendship circle, you're comparing what your neighbours doing because you're following them, and you're comparing what celebrities are doing because you're following them. You're seeing all the gossip blogs that are like giving you literally minute to minute updates on what Rihanna's doing, what Beyonce's doing, and what this one's doing.
Right.
And you then look back in your mirror where everything used to be your smaller friendship circle, or maybe your colleagues at work, and you're not comparing yourself with 2 or 3 people or whoever. You're comparing yourself with the world, and everyone on Instagram, at least, is showing you the curated, perfect, filtered versions of themselves.
There's of themselves, yeah. We are not curated, and we are definitely not perfect. We are imperfectly perfect.
Absolutely. And I think that is the beauty of it. Like, when I overcame a lot of the fears that I had and the insecurities and stuff, which, by the way, sometimes doesn't go away, you have to learn to manage it. And I think that was the beautiful thing when I was able to express that and share it with others, realizing that so many of us are actually going through very similar horrible battles in our minds. And you have to be able to get out of your own way. You have to be able to get out of your own stuff, your own thoughts, and just admit, like, this is where I am. I think when I was much younger, I didn't speak out because I thought I was the only one, and I obviously didn't want to be.
No, because of course, it's a horrible place to be, to feel that you're just the only one. Like, there's something wrong with you. Yeah, everybody else is okay, but I'm. And I can relate to that. And I think as I've got older, I'm understanding my uniqueness is actually the thing that I was running away from all my life. Yeah, trying to be something else. Actually, just being myself and being comfortable with that it's been a massive shift for me.
Yeah,
I don't have to be like everybody else. I don't have to be. It doesn't have to be like Kai's journey
absolutely.
to tick the box. It's your journey, Marcia. So if it takes you
Yeah.
to 70 to do certain things, then I ain't that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, but no, but for real, because who's put these kind of goalposts up? society.
Do you see, in terms of like what you're talking about and how you've gone through it, do you see a big difference in your childhood growing up and your influences and versus now your children who, although adult, have obviously grown up more so with a digital lifestyle?
Yep. I will talk about parenting those types of children because I feel I do slip into, I'm somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
So I slip into my learnt behavior
Right.
versus the woman I've evolved into.
Yeah.
So I see it like I have the gift to be, because I have awareness, I have the gift to be able to see myself and how I'm showing up. So I believe that we're given the children that we're given to teach us, to help us to grow. So I 100% see how each one of my children have enabled me to grow as a person, and they've challenged certain things within me. And so obviously the way that they show up is relative to the times that they are in, their surroundings, how, where they grew up. There's lots of factors that have molded who they are. And trust and believe me, as much as I am this open, evolved woman, there's aspects of that are really challenging. And I see my parents, I see myself, I see what I endured as a child. The things that I said I'd never say, I'd never do, but I find myself doing them. And I have to catch myself. Because I think, well, that's not really productive, is it, Marcia? You've raised children to have a voice, for example. This is something I struggled with as a child. I didn't have a voice. So I raised children to have a voice, but sometimes I don't want to hear the voice. I don't want to hear what I got to say because I just want them to do the thing. Do it. Do what I asked you to do. Yeah. So do you see, like, it's you yeah. In my case, I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
In terms of how they show up and it having an impact. Yeah.
I love that actually, because I know a couple of times you have said, with your children, you understand that they've come to you and they're there to teach you a lesson as well.
Yep.
You don't own your children.
Nope.
Do you know what I mean?
Nope.
And I think that's a beautiful analogy. I didn't at first, I wasn't able to wrap my head around it because I thought, well, actually, they are your children, and they are your children because you gave birth to them. But in terms of just understanding, they've come to you in your life, and they're going to teach you things just like you're going to teach them things, and obviously help them on their way and on their journey. But irrespective, they each have individual journeys that are connected, but they're on their solo paths, and I've understood that. I mean, of course, I don't have children of my own, but I've definitely understood that more and more, because we have to be self-reliant, and obviously many of us are only learning this much later in life. But even when you are a child, obviously parenting the way that you do, I can see how very independent they are. And you do encourage them to make their own decisions quite early.
They don't like it. They don't like it always. That's been met with a lot of challenge. And I don't know, there's no wrong, there's no right. I don't know if I've done the right thing. But what I do know is that they are independent. And they may not even realize how independent they are. But they are. And I know that they're self-sufficient in that if God forbid anything was to happen to me, I feel that their father and I have given them the tools to be able to navigate life. And, even thinking about the fact that they've lost their father, and even what you've just said now, that everybody has their own life cycle. And, even in that short time, his impact has been massive on their life. Like I know there's things that he would have said, that he would have done, that will forever impact their lives in a positive way, and because none of us can be here forever. And so this is something that on my journey involving and growing, I've, kind of understanding the cycle of life and learning to be at peace with the fact that how we show up in the world and the impact that we make while we're here is something that's very, very important, because we aren't going to be here always. But what we do while we're here is integral to the legacy that we leave behind. Whether we have children or not, because we all leave a legacy, and we are all here, I believe, for a bigger purpose.
Absolutely. I think you're right. I sorry to cut you. I don't know if your children even, I mean, they wouldn't, because they're obviously going through things for the first time at their age and stage of life, but I don't think they know how independent they are. And I think obviously the more that they go through, different challenges through perhaps university or, first relationships and all those kind of things, those will kind of show up differently. But looking at it for myself, and even the kind of things that I try to encourage with the clients that I have, it's that if you don't know who you are and what it is that you want, you'll forever be relying on other people to tell you. And I firsthand experienced that. So, I know your eldest daughter left the UAE when she was, 17, 18. And was like, bye, mom, I'm going to go to the UK and do my own thing. And when you told me, I was like, what, how did that happen when she was that age? Because I know what I was going through at that age. And obviously we're not all the same. But in terms of having the guts to even leave home, much less leave the country, and then just go and spread your wings, So the women who do want to, have a goal or an idea and they get stuck and things like that, I think the independence that you've been able to kind of show your kids from a young age are the things that myself and many others have either struggled with or are learning later. And there's no right or wrong, because I think we all learn it in our different ways, whether it's a good thing that happens or a bad thing that happens. Coming around and having the self-awareness to overcome it later is fantastic. The end result is that you've got there, but I think it's beautiful, because once you start to learn to trust yourself and to think for yourself and to just not rely on outside validation, to be like, so what do you think I should do? Okay, but what do you think I should do? Okay, mum, what do you think I should do?
Right. And so you end up asking 20 people, and
Absolutely.
all those people have, they're coming to you with their backgrounds, their stuff, their projections. And again, I just want to be clear to the listeners that we're not saying don't ask people for opinions, but you do at some stage in your life have to learn and begin to learn to lean and trust yourself. And this is definitely something I have learned to do way more as I have got older. What I will say is I've seen it in my children much earlier. Yeah. I feel that they will arrive where I'm at much, much earlier, because of how I've been with them. And that is not to say it's right or wrong, but they've had to lean in.
Yeah.
They've had to lean in, because who else are they going to lean on?
Yeah. I love that. I think it's beautiful. And, I really encourage people to not wait until something bad happens or until you're pushed out of a situation, which, I've had several, whether it's been a job. I mean, thankfully, I've actually quit a couple of jobs when I knew they weren't right for me. But that still didn't come as an easy decision, because I asked so many people what they thought when I knew the answer and I knew that I could do it. It was just having the backup, because if they say it's okay, then it must be okay. Not if I say, but if they say it's okay,
because
then
they
it must
know
be
and
okay.
I don't. Right. So you don't even realize, do you, that by default you're actually saying what you feel is insignificant or less
I was doing it for a long time, actually. When I was in different jobs, I've quit 2 jobs. I've been redundant twice as well. And at some point you start to think, like, is the universe telling me something? Do you know what I mean? But when I was in the situations at the time, I remember just asking so many other people. And once one of my bosses actually said to me, in a complete different scenario actually, but she was listening to, you know, everything that I was saying, and said, you know, you've told me what your mum said and what your friend said and what your partner said, but you haven't told me what you think and what you want. So I'm thinking, is she not listening to me? Because I just said, you know, they said this and I'm supposed to do this. And then, you know, I could do this and I could do that. So I've given like 20 different options. She's like, but which one do you want? Like, I'm not clear. And I was really perplexed because I was like, but I've just told you everything. Like, you're not
Right.
listening. I I had to go away and think, like, but which
Yeah,
one
what do I want?
do
And to be honest, I was the same. I remember a good friend saying the same thing to me. You keep telling me what your kids want, what your husband wants, but I'm not really hearing what do you want? And so now I'm surrounded by a lot more people who they're not interested in what other people want. Yeah, they're
no,
interested in hearing what do you want? Okay, this is what you want. Okay, so what steps are you taking to get there? How can I support you in fulfilling what you say you want?
yeah. And that helps you get so much clarity,
Yeah, of course,
because then you then ask for specific things, and when you
literally
ask for
that.
specific things, the specific things show up,
Right,
and then
and
it
so
means you need to do it.
right, so going back to most or a lot of people may at some stage in their life feel stuck, but I think most of us have networks, and something I've learned to do is to leverage on my networks. So leading on from what you've just said is, you have friends, but we have friends for different things.
Mm,
We have different levels of friends.
yeah,
So some are for partying, some are for going towards building your business,
yeah,
some are to give you information, some are to help empower you. So you now need to learn and understand, if you want to get unstuck, how are you going to utilize the networks around you?
mm,
Because again, that was something that made a massive shift for me. When
mm-hmm,
I took the decision I want to write a book,
mm-hmm,
I was shown how to pick 5 people in my
mm-hmm,
circle to support me on that journey. So no, they weren't going to write the book with me, but they were going to things that I maybe not weren't strong at or didn't
mm,
understand or didn't know how to do. There were people within my network that could help and support me to do that.
yeah,
So it's leveraging, because what I do know, it takes a village.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, we can't do life alone.
mm-hmm,
We need the support of others. So I guess my advice to anyone really is, look at your networks and how can you leverage, how can you utilize the things that are around you.
absolutely. You're very good at that, actually, the networks. I would add to that and say, you know, you've got to take action. If you are feeling stuck, it's fantastic that you've acknowledged that and you know that's where you are, and there's a barrier of some kind. But once you've acknowledged that, you kind of got to think, okay, what is the thing that's holding me back? Am I scared of this? Am I waiting for that? Am I afraid to, let someone down? Whatever that is, I strongly think that journaling is a brilliant tool to kind of
Yeah,
start to unpack that. And one of the tools that I do use, and I help with my clients and have in my workbook, is writing down your strengths and weaknesses. It's a SWOT analysis, which I
yeah,
learned from business, but applying it to yourself and being able to look at your strengths, what you really are good at. The first time I did it, I remember showing my former boss, and I had this long list of stuff that was in my weakness section, but my strength section was like literally 5 or 6 bullet points. And she said, "You
that's
haven't
it.
written down, you're beautiful. You haven't written down you're intelligent." And I've grown immensely since then. But my point is, when you see things in black and white on paper, you can kind of really gauge where you are, where your mind is at. And that's not to say it's a bad place or anything. It's just a measurement. It's just documenting it, literally.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I would suggest writing it. I'm all for digital things as well, but I think writing it down has a different muscle memory for shifting your energy. So I would strongly advise pen to paper. And then looking at your opportunities. as Marcy has mentioned, with regards to leveraging your network, see who's around you and think, okay, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, but what opportunities do I have to leverage around me? And what are your potential threats? You know, is it your mindset? Is it your finances? Is it, you know, the fact that you're in a location where the pandemic is restricting what it is that you want to do? Writing it all down and having it on paper visually to kind of gauge where you are now and where you want to be is a fantastic tool. And then taking action, making those calls, connecting with those women, you know, listening to this
All
podcast,
men.
whatever it may be. Oh, of course, all men. You know, reading that book, whatever it may be, taking that course, the small baby steps in the right direction. And even if you have to start over again, it's about taking action, because if you don't do that, then you stay stuck and you're not really aiding yourself to overcome. So
100%. Leading on from what you've just said, because you know, I too am a firm believer of, you know, SWOT analyses. I think they are a great tool. I usually ask my clients to do them, but I also ask them to ask 5 other people to do one on them, because, like you said, people are quite modest when they come to speaking about themselves, and where other people won't necessarily be as modest. And if you pick the right people, it can be life-changing. And that was definitely the case for me, because I'm one of those people that find it difficult to accept compliments or to see myself in a certain light. So then to see it in black and white but written by someone else is life-altering. Because actually,
I think, sorry, go on.
You don't necessarily always realize how people see you.
That's
so you have
literally what I was
one
about to say.
you show up in the world how you think you show up in the world, but that's not necessarily how people see you. And I know we both have experienced that, you know, because when people give you feedback, you think, wow, are they talking about me?
Well, the thing is, I was about to tail from what you said, because sometimes it's impossible to see everything. You know, yes, we might be modest and too humble or just shy, and, you know, confidence isn't skyrocketing. But even when it is, we can't literally see everything because it's happening. We're having a different experience. So it's almost like when you look down and you see, you know, your chest and your
cleavage.
torso and your feet from the view that you see it, because you're in your own head looking down. But somebody obviously looking at you from a different angle, someone looking, like, we can't see the back of our heads. I need someone to look at the back of my head for me, or a mirror to see what it is I think everybody else sees. And even then, I'm still only going to look at it from the perspective of that mirror, or, you know, through someone else's eyes. So, you know, really understanding that and not beating yourself up is a key thing. But asking other people, because they're going to tell you the things that you don't even think of. And when you keep hearing it, you're like, so many people keep telling me the same thing.
So it cannot be a lie. Maybe there's some truth here. So we recommend SWOTs, and if you would like to get hold of Kai's workbook, we will drop the link in the comments, and you can go ahead and purchase that. But it's definitely something that I would recommend. Well, we would recommend even.
Yes. It's just about, I think, having the right people in your corner. And obviously, ever since we've met, we've been able to kiki and share ideas, and, you know, the highs and the lows and stuff like that. So I just really urge you, if you're watching or listening, and thank you, by the way, we've released the podcast to the public now. Ta-da! And we're loving the feedback, so thank you. But just finding the right people that can be in your corner to keep you accountable, and to just take these steps. You know, this is what it's all about. And it's always good to talk. You know, you talk about it. Sharing is caring. You learn something new every day.
Each one teach one.
So there was something I was actually going to say, and it's literally gone through my mind now. So I'm going to hand back over to you. Is there anything you would like to leave our amazing viewers and listeners with?
Yeah, just, I mean, from a woman who struggled with just believing in herself, whatever you're looking for, honestly, it's not out there. It's inside of you. And I would just urge anyone, man, woman, child, anyone that's listening to this, just take the time to dig a little bit deeper and to sit with yourself, because you have got some amazing gems within you, and it's just about finding them and bringing them out so that they can sparkle and shine in the world.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Um, that was amazing, but I actually have a question now because I've remembered. You started at the beginning and you mentioned, you feel there's a bit of a change and a shift and you're very excited. Now that we've talked about this topic of being stuck or becoming unstuck rather, is there anything that maybe you've just realized or that you feel like now you're stuck on, but you're actually facing? Because I feel like throughout the rest of this year, I mean, I already know it anyway, but we're going to overcome, we're going to conquer, we're going to break some boundaries, we're going to claim some things. But yeah, I just wondered if you wanted to put anything out there. I'm going to share mine in a second because I've just thought of it.
Go ahead, share yours.
I know
She always
during the
likes to put me on the
pandemic,
spot.
because sometimes it's like these questions that come through, but we're on a really good thing. And then we finish talking. I'm like, what was it? I didn't write it down. So for me, I know that I was definitely fearful in putting the workbook out. And I think from my music background, I felt it was just for music anyway, but I always felt scared of what people would say or being judged when the song was out. But then, of course, when it came to the book, I realized I had the exact same feeling of people judging or what they're going to say when the book was out. It then crept up again when I was putting out my course. And during the pandemic, I got to work and I was sharing lots and encouraging lots of people. We had the podcast that we started and the Mind Over Matter group. And I realized that when I'm detached from things and I don't really expect anything from the outcome, I can talk about it, brag about it all day long. But when I have an attachment to something and I'm maybe fearful of the outcome, or I fear that people are going to judge me, then I sort of freeze. And I realized that was happening with my course. So, it started during 2020, 2021, and I know that I'm supposed to be doing exactly what it is that I am doing. So it's just becoming comfortable with those feelings and recognizing when they show up, and overcoming them, because I'm actually doing the things that I said I was going to do anyway. So yeah, just thought I'd share that.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, that's probably something very similar in terms of going back to what we said earlier and how people see us and how people view us. I think just from having lots of that feedback where I've questioned my abilities or questioned if I'm even doing the right thing, I think a big shift for me is you are absolutely doing the right thing, and you do just need to continue doing it and not to question it too much or to be hard on yourself or overthink things. Like, just don't. You are a conduit, and you are here to share something for the greater good of many. And so just trust that, just trust it, and just be about it. And so, yeah, there's going to be lots of exciting things.
Well, I was going to say, I think I'm going to combust with excitement because we're just doing what we said we're going to do. We are enjoying and loving the process and just literally facing everything head on. And I think that's been the beauty of, for me anyway, the beauty of what's gone on the last year to 2 years. So we hope you've enjoyed watching or listening. Please do get in touch, leave us a comment, ask us any questions, or just tell us what you'd like us to talk about. There are so many things that come up, and we go with how we feel, actually. So if there's anything that you would like us to feel out live and have a discussion about, then we'll do that. So how can our lovely audience get in touch with you, Marcia?
Okay, so details will be in the comments, but I am easily accessible on Instagram at the Marcy McLeod, and also you can hop onto my website where I share lots of blogs and inspirational stuff to keep your vibrations high.
And you can see there just down below, it will also be in the description of wherever you are watching or viewing. But you can get in touch with me at I am simply Kai. That is Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and my website is iamsimplykai.com. I also have some great resources on there for you to tackle your self-confidence and overcome any challenges. So have a look at some of the free tips and tools, and I'd love to speak to you if you are going through anything right now and want support. So thank you for listening and watching, and as always, it's always good to talk. So we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye-bye.
Proudly sponsored by Bee Beads. Be different, handmade with love.